Do you guys remember illegally downloading software or a video game and the keygen that you used to get it for free would always have this fire ass song playing in the background? Oh, you do remember? Right there, officer. Take him to jail right now. Right there. They're right there. For legal reasons, anything I say after this point is for entertainment purposes only, and I'm just playing a character. Okay?
Are you sure about that?
Keygen. What is a keygen? And why do they always have good music? Well, stick around and I'll tell you, okay, Timmy? Be patient. Keygen, or a key generator, is exactly that. It's a piece of software that essentially creates a key or license that you can use to activate another piece of software and use it for free instead of paying for it. Basically, it's not all that legal, but a lot of things aren't all that legal, so who cares? In simple terms, hackers create keygen software because the way some games or software like Photoshop, Sony Vegas, Crysis 3 reads the keys or licenses that you put in are through formulas that will test if your key is legit or not. Keygen software basically cracks those formulas and can generate keys that will pass that vibe check that the other software does. And then boom, you can use the software all willy-nilly, at least until, you go to prison. But you were using it for free, so it's kind of worth it, in my opinion. All right, the nerd stuff is out of the way, and if I'm completely wrong on how that works, let me know in the comments down below. I'm not a hacker, so I just try my best to figure it out. Keygen software, man. I'm not sure how common it is these days, especially with everything being a subscription service rather than a single license. And because, I put that life behind me many, many years ago. But when I was a kid, at least in my household, they were allegedly way too common. Man, I wasn't even using them anymore because I needed or wanted a piece of software. I was just using them for sport at a certain point. I didn't like this version of Sony Vegas. Say less. Let me just get this other one. Any game I wanted, boom. Let me listen to this Chiptune song real quick, and boom, the game's on my computer. Just like that. It's like magic. And FBI, there's nothing you could really do about it.
No, you're not gonna do shit. You're not gonna do shit.
Because it's all a joke, silly, of course, right? I listen to chiptune songs while legally getting software. Just so I could feel something, Oh, and y'all that use FL Studio, come on. We all know you're not paying for it. And let's be honest, come on. It's okay. This is a safe space. But this video isn't necessarily about how they work, but why the frick do they have the craziest songs playing when you use them? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked, Timmy. Now, to answer that question, we have to go way back. No, not that far back. Let's go to like the 90s or, the 80s. Computers were becoming popular, and this led to the rise of computer software. Why did I even write that in the script? Obviously. Anyway, in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, hackers really began competing to see who could pirate software first. Once someone did it first, this is where a cracktro or a crack intro came along. See, I'm throwing some jargon at you. Write that down. Obviously, you wanted the hackers to know that you did it before them. So what did they do? They put together a little cracktro to let everybody know, hey, I beat you to it. I'm better than you. It's kind of like bragging rights that you beat this other hacker group to hacking a software first. In a way, it's kind of like how FaZe Call of Duty montages used to have the intro to the player before they started, especially when it was like a trick shot no one had hit before. You needed to know who that player was, right? And it wasn't even only with hacking specifically, though, that these were common. Mostly because people had these skills but didn't want to showcase them by pirating software, and also just because the rise of technology, people wanted to show off their abilities. And that's where demoscene comes along. See, write that down too. I'm not talking about the demo of Nintendogs you played when you were a kid. I'm talking about demoscene. The demo scene was an entire subculture that stemmed from people that were just really good at creating these audio visual type presentations. Um, Demo scene involved showing off graphics and yep, great music. See, you're catching on quick. People in the demo scene would even gather at these Diddy parties, demo parties to show off their, I'm gonna call them cracktros, even though they weren't necessarily for cracking software. But it's pretty cool to be honest. And these events happened and still happen to this day all around the world, especially in the 80s and 90s, because computers were so new to the everyday person. People wanted to show the crazy things that they could do on them. And this involved making these sick graphics and fitting music into the smallest size possible. If I were to put it in today's terms, let's see. I think it would be like how people post their Fortnite clips and then have to keep one upping each other, to get a better and better clip. That's kind of how it was back in the day. But the demo scene still exists today. And the demo scene, write this down as a fun fact. The demo scene actually gave us Angry Birds in a way. So, thank you for that, I guess. I don't know. Thank you, or you should apologize. I'm not sure. But yeah, the creator of Angry Birds was actually big into the demo scene in the 90s, and then he eventually created Angry Birds because of the knowledge and skills that he had gained. So that's pretty cool. With the demo scene now, this music was not only for hackers, it was pretty much, rated E for everyone. I think it's also important to talk about the progression of these cracktros. At first, they did not start out as these intricate graphics with music. It would be like a logo, if even that, just showing who did it or text stating who did it, because they were on Apple machines from the late 70s, early 80s. Then they eventually evolved into what we see today as these groups started competing with each other and people just started getting better with tech in general, so everything just got better. Now, most of the music you would hear in these cracktros would be like chiptune type beats. And why is this? Well, Timmy, you're asking lots of good questions, all right? Well, the reason why I had to do mostly with file size, you know how like your iPhone these days probably comes with like 256 gigabytes of storage minimum? Probably that. I'm not sure. But well, back in the days, technology wasn't like this. Drives like floppy disks back in the day could literally have like 1 megabyte of storage, which is honestly pretty insane to think about in today's terms. I mean, even in the early 2000s, I remember memory cards for like the PS2 or the GameCube would be as low as like 8 megabytes, maybe. The file types of the songs these hackers would include in their cracktros were called music module files or mod files. And basically, they were just small enough to fit into the smallest storage possible. Chiptune style music was the best music for this because making it didn't take up much space and it was the 80s and 90s. So what else could they have done, I mean, I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but I've seen people make these chiptune 8-bit music on literal Game Boys. So I think that really says a lot. I've even seen it be done on a calculator. I think it's kind of like how people run Doom on literally everything that exists. You can probably make this type of music on anything that exists in the world. But back to Keygen though, these cracktros kind of started to just one-up each other. Not only that, but sometimes the README files tied to the Keygen would have some disses towards other hacker groups and even have the logo of the group in like ASCII text. These groups though, Dead had beef and it was more serious than even like Tupac and Biggie at the time. Just take my word for that. Don't look into that. These disses, they went deep. So obviously the cracktros just started to become more and more grandiose and the music started to become catchier and people had to die. I'm joking about that last part, but who knows? It was serious, so maybe I'm not joking. Maybe people actually died. For the people just using these crack softwares and keygens, though, it was a win-win. That's the most beautiful part about this. The consumer always wins. We would get keygens faster and faster and with better and better music. So, yeah, I can't complain that these groups were competing with each other. I also mentioned file sizes earlier, and even this was used as a way to flex on each other. These groups would flex the fact that their song was maybe a little bit longer, but took up less space. I'm not sure if they were compensating for anything, maybe. Who knows? It is insane, though, that entire animations or graphics and music could fit into like 64 kilobytes, less than a megabyte. That's insane to think about. For reference, the average like 3 minute song as an MP3 can be 3 megabytes or even larger. And don't even get me started on other file sizes. So super impressive. Super impressive. I think another reason why these cracktros and keygen music just became so popular was because they were great marketing tools. That sounds funny because why do these hacker groups need marketing? Well, I mentioned earlier that they were competing with other hacker groups. Hacker groups just seem to love promoting their illegal activities. It's no different than like Lizard Squad, gloating about the things that they were doing back in their day. All these groups had the same goal of providing the people what they need. Yes, cracked Photoshop or cracked Grand Theft Auto is a necessity. But it's also fun for them to just compete with each other and see who can do it first and other things like that. If you were seeing the same hacker group too in like every keygen software that you were using, wouldn't you be kind of impressed that they make all of these? And then wouldn't you also just start trusting them the more? So that's kind of why like marketing for them was like a kind of big deal. People would start using their softwares and just start trusting them more. And also, they were the first to do something. So, pretty cool. My brother actually kind of described it like graffiti tagging for artists, especially in spaces, that seem impossible to get to, but virtually. You want it to be known that you made it there first, and I think that's a pretty good analogy. Although Keygen and Cracktros aren't as popular today, the demo scene still lives on, and the impact of the music from these cracktros and keygen software can definitely still be seen. A lot of chiptune artists, I'm not sure would even exist today if it wasn't for keygen music or cracktros. I mean, a band I like a lot, Anamanaguchi, even tweeted about keygen music before, so it's safe to assume that they were like a little bit inspired by this, right?
Nope.
I hope so. I don't know. Maybe not inspired, but they know it exists, so there's that. Anyway, now I wanted to download as many keygens as I could and see which had the best music and put it all in a tier list. I'm kidding, but I did consider it for a second, but I don't want viruses right now and I don't want to film myself committing crimes. But if you guys would want to see that, let me know. But if you did enjoy the video, please, leave a like, a subscribe, leave a comment below telling me what the favorite piece of software you pirated is. That's right, incriminate yourself. If you leave a like and a subscribe, I will create a keygen software for Roblox and then film myself committing crimes. Okay, bye-bye.